Before airplanes, the island of Westray was a world apart. Imagine being surrounded by the North Sea, a beautiful but unforgiving neighbor. For generations, the people here lived by fishing, herding, and the rhythm of the tides. Their only connection to the outside world was by boat, but the North Sea was never gentle. A single storm, a common guest in these parts, could halt all sea travel for days, sometimes even weeks. There was an old saying on the island, "We daren't live on an island. We re-trapped on one." Think about that for a moment. Needing to see a doctor, buying groceries, or attending an important family event all depended entirely on the weather's mood. It wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a constant, unpredictable force that dictated life itself. You could be stuck waiting for the waves to calm, with no certainty of when you could leave or when supplies would arrive. This was the reality for the people of Westray. It was a life of patience, resilience, and a deep, often frustrating, reliance on nature. But then, everything was about to change. The distant hum of an engine was about to rewrite their story. Many of the older residents on Westray still have vivid memories of those pre-flight days. Their stories paint a powerful picture of isolation. I spoke with a fisherman whose grandfather needed urgent medical care. To get to the main island, he had to wait for the sea to be calm enough for the boat to sail. Sometimes he waited 3 days. Sometimes it was 3 weeks. Can you imagine that kind of helplessness today? For the islanders, this wasn't just a story. It was their biggest struggle. Every journey was a gamble. But then, one day, a small airplane touched down on a simple grass runway, and for the first time in a long time, the people of Westray saw something new on the horizon: hope. The year was 1967. A small Scottish airline called Loganair began exploring the idea of connecting the scattered Orkney Islands by air. When their first test plane, a tiny aircraft, landed on Westray's grassy field, it was a major event. It felt like the entire island had turned out to watch. This plane had only 8 seats, but to the people gathered there, it was more significant than any jumbo jet. It was a lifeline. In that moment, watching the small machine come to a stop, a new feeling sparked among the islanders. It was a collective thought, a shared whisper of possibility. Maybe, just maybe, we can finally connect with the outside world. By the 1970s, that hope became a routine. The aircraft that truly revolutionized island life was the Britten-Norman Islander, or the BN2. This plane was a workhorse, perfectly designed for places like Westray. It could take off and land on short, unprepared runways. It was tough enough to handle the strong crosswinds that whip across the islands, and could withstand the harsh, salty air. It was the perfect match for this remote corner of the world. Every day, pilots would perform their checks, walking round the sturdy little plane, inspecting the wings, feeling the direction of the wind, before taking off from that same grass runway. From that point on, Westray was no longer a lonely, isolated outpost. For the first time in its history, it was truly, reliably connected to the world. Now, here's where the story gets famous. The flight from Westray to its closest neighbor, Papa Westray, covers a distance of just 2.7 kilometers. Officially, the flight time is scheduled for 2 minutes, but with a good tailwind, it can be over in less than 60 seconds. This is, officially, the world's shortest scheduled commercial flight. What started as a completely practical, essential transport link for locals accidentally became a world record holder. I talked to one of the pilots, and he put it perfectly. We're not flying to break records. We're just a bus service. We're helping people get from point A to point B. But the record brought attention. Soon, tourists and aviation enthusiasts from all over the globe started arriving, all wanting to experience this unique 1 minute in the sky. If you visit Westray Airport, you might be surprised. It's probably one of the simplest airports in the entire United Kingdom. There are no security scanners, no duty-free shops, and definitely no baggage carousels. Your bag is simply handed to you by the pilot. But what it lacks in modern amenities, it more than makes up for with something far more valuable: community. The staff here know most of the passengers by name. When a flight is delayed by fog, nobody gets angry. Instead, everyone gathers in the small waiting room, shares a cup of tea, and chats. You'll see elderly residents flying to the main island for a doctor's appointment. You'll see kids who take the plane to their secondary school. You'll see fishermen heading to Kirkwall for supplies. Here, flying isn't a luxury or a special occasion. It's just a part of everyday life, like catching a bus or a train. Of course, flying in the Orkney Islands is no walk in the park. The weather here is notoriously fickle. A calm morning can turn into a gale-force storm in minutes. Fog can roll in from the sea and swallow the entire airfield, reducing visibility to zero. The pilots who fly these routes are some of the most skilled in the world. As one of them told me, we're not just flying a route, we're carrying a responsibility. They know that if they can't fly, a patient might miss a crucial hospital appointment, a student might miss their exams, and families might be separated. For decades, through relentless winds and thick fog, the pilots of Loganair have been the guardians of this vital link, protecting the lifeline they helped create. Every single 1-minute flight here carries a story. I met a man who told me, with tears in his eyes, that this small plane saved his wife's life a few years ago. She had a medical emergency, and the ferry wasn't running due to a storm. The plane was her only hope, and it got her to the hospital just in time. I spoke to a student who commutes to school by air every day, while her friends on the mainland take a bus. Her school run is a flight over the sea. A fisherman explained that even when the harbour is closed by violent storms, the plane often still flies, allowing him to get to work. Here, on this tiny stretch of sea, 1 minute is enough. It's enough to cross the water, enough to connect families, enough to deliver essential supplies, and enough to carry hope from one island to another. That is the true, profound meaning of the world's shortest flight. It's not about the record. It's about the people whose lives it changes every single day. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.